The Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has met with the leaders of the United States, India and Japan for the Quad Summit in the US state of Delaware.
In the final meeting to be hosted by US President Joe Biden, the leaders agreed to deepen cooperation on regional security, public health and climate change. Our North America Bureau Chief Jade McMillan has the latest details.
Joe Biden has put a number of personal touches on this Quad meeting, hosting leaders, including the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, at his old school in Delaware and having them over to his personal residence in Wilmington, which isn't far from here. In the final months of his presidency, Joe Biden is trying to emphasise the importance he has placed on this Quad grouping, which also includes India and Japan. It was elevated to the leader-to-leader level in the early days of his White House and was really seen as part of US efforts to try to counter China's expanding influence in the Indo-Pacific region. Now, there is some uncertainty ahead for the Quad. Joe Biden's decision not to seek re-election in November means that he will finish up his term in January when whoever wins that election takes over. The Japanese Prime Minister has also announced that he's stepping down and Anthony Albanese will face a federal election expected to happen before May next year, despite the questions that has prompted over the future of this partnership. Both the President and the Prime Minister argued that it would endure.
While challenges will come, the world will change because the Quad is here to stay, I believe.
Unlike some international forums, the Quad it doesn't have a long history. That means it's not defined by tradition, but it also means it's not confined by it. It means that as it develops, it can evolve. And that is, I believe, what is happening.
Now, one of the announcements made by the Quad leaders was again quite personal to Joe Biden. It relates to a US program called Cancer Moonshot that tries to reduce the number of deaths caused by cancer. And the President has been involved since he was Vice President in the wake of the death of his son Beau Biden from brain cancer. The Quad leaders have announced their own initiative as part of that program in an effort to try to roll out more HPV vaccines across the Indo-Pacific to reduce rates of cervical cancer. There were also announcements around increased maritime cooperation, particularly when it comes to combating illegal fishing in the region. Now, Anthony Albanese sat down obviously with Joe Biden at his personal home yesterday. He met one-on-one with Japan's Prime Minister earlier today, but he was asked why he hadn't done the same with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He said that he would be having a quick discussion with him after these announcements had wrapped up. The Prime Minister had previously said that he would likely be raising Australia's decision to expel alleged Indian spies from the country in recent years, but he played down any suggestion that there was some tension there in the relationship between Australia and India.
The relations between India and Australia have never been stronger. They're very important relationships. I've been to India, I've hosted Prime Minister Modi, and it's just a matter of logistics.
Now, this was a fleeting visit to the United States for Anthony Albanese. Once the leaders wrap up a dinner here on the school grounds, he'll be headed straight back home to Australia.